All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Cheap Chumps podcast. Today we have a bit of a different episode, but before that, let me get introductions out of the way. It's me, Marty. You've heard me many a time before, and with me today is,
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ernie.
yep. And today, let me just go ahead and start off by saying this whole episode today is going to be one big spoiler cast. We're going to be talking about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So this is your spoiler warning. Woo woo spoiler.
Warning, 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 warning.
And with that, let me just go ahead and talk about how we know Venom. So Venom, he's a big Spider-Man. I don't want to say villain, but anti-hero, right? That's usually what he's generally referred to.
Well, I think he started off as a villain, and then people started liking him. They're like, "All right, well, let's make him an anti-hero."
Yeah. So like in today's term, people would like call him like he's a Spider-Man anti-hero. He's done villainous things, but I'm pretty sure in most things he's in now, he's just tries to help out in some way. In similar fashion to what's his name, Punisher, right? You know more
Yeah.
about Punisher than me.
Oh, I love Punisher so much. Yeah, Punisher is very black and white. You're good or you're bad. There's no middle ground. There's no doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. He's black or white. I think Venom is more. He tries to be good, but I think the symbiote suit just kind of hungers for craziness or I don't know violence, and so
Yeah, and I know with like I don't know how much it works in terms of symbiote, but I know like depending on what generation or what I think even their colors have something to do. Their rank means like how much more crazy and like they more willing to eat humans and living beings than certain are. Because if I recall, in terms of like power scale of venoms and symbiotes, Venom's like the weakest, if I recall, and that's probably why people like him because underdog and all that.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned that in the movie. I don't know. I know the colors have definitely mean something, but I don't know if it's rank. That I don't know.
Yeah, but here just to get us back on track a little bit. I know my first introduction to Venom was, I believe, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, an arcade cabinet, or it might have been the first one. I think he was in both, but it was in one of those. And I remember seeing him and thinking like, "Whoa, he's this big, gross goop monster. Cool." And then I ended up playing Mega Man because, of course, I love Mega Man. But that was kind of it. And then over time, as the Sam Raimi movies came out and I got more and more exposed to comics, I come to recognize Venom as a lot more. Like I could see him on anything and just be like Venom, cool, see him on a T-shirt, be like, oh, I kind of want that T-shirt. Um, he's become very synonymous with Spider-Man in this, and a lot of people when they talk about Spider-Man, 9 times out of 10 in the conversation, Venom comes up. Like, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, he just looks awesome. He's always drawn, like you said, goopy, wet, massive teeth, just splashing everywhere. He just looks amazing.
And I do want to add, I do like how the artist handled Venom in these movies. I thought he looked really, really cool. In the first one, he looked good. Second one, just as good. I think they handled the whole symbiote, the whole goopy thing, really, really well. But how do you know? How do you know Venom? I imagine it's probably not from a crossover video game.
No, I being much older, I started watching the Spider-Man Fox animated TV cartoons, which I think it's now on Disney Plus. But I remember watching Venom there. I remember in that cartoon, which was I think related to the comics at the time. What's the news editor? The give me pictures of Spider-Man.
J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah.
Yeah, J. Jonah Jameson, his son went to the moon and he came back, but something followed him, and it was a symbiote suit. And he had it for a while. Then it got on Spider-Man, and that's when you get the black suit, the symbiote suit. And then
Mhm.
he got rid of it, and then it got on Eddie Brock, which in the cartoons, Eddie Brock was a jerk. It's kind of funny,
Yeah.
but yeah. So that's how I started liking Venom. I remember playing Maximum Carnage on the Sega Genesis. That game was awesome. It was a side scroller beat 'em up. That was a great game. And then I also started reading the Venom 2018 run, which talks about Null and all the symbiotes and all that stuff. And that's an awesome new look at Venom. So I do have a little bit of history with Venom. I do like him. He's definitely one of my top favorite
Yeah.
Marvel characters.
No, I love him. I wouldn't say I love him, but I do like him a lot. Especially with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. If anyone remembers, that's a game. I remember being really, really hyped when they revealed Venom was coming for his DLC. And in my opinion, he has the best theme song out of the Marvel side of that game. But um, yeah, I remember they announced Venom, and I was just like, dude, that's so sick. Like, I don't know, just seeing him just being in stuff really excites me, which is kind of why like I've been wanting to do this episode where we talk about the movie itself. But Venom, cool character, great design. He's just I don't know. And Eddie Brock is cool too. Don't get me wrong, but Eddie Brock is like hit or miss. Sometimes he's a jerk, sometimes he isn't. Um, I know the way Sam Raimi handled him. Do you remember who played him? He was the guy from that '70s show.
Oh, for Grayson, Grafer.
Yeah, something like that. I'm sure he tried his best, but I don't know. I think his rendition of Eddie Brock was really you know?
Well, it wasn't great, but also that movie had a ton of problems. They just tried to shoehorn everybody. The Sandman was in there, and then the Hobgoblin was in there, and then Venom was in there, and then they just like stuffed that movie with like literally everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I think it's best now to just talk about this movie, Venom: Let There Be Carnage, right?
Let's do it.
All right. So, I'm gonna say that the movie started off kind of forgetful. In fact, I'm not really 100% sure how it started, other than Eddie Brock is like, what's the word? Interview, not interrogating. Interviewing Cletus Cassidy, right? Like Cletus has his own prison cell within a prison cell, which I can't tell why, because it looks like they let him out of that tinier cage. So then, like, why have the tinier cage?
Yeah, it looked like he was in a cell, and then they put him in like a more of observable cage of a cell.
Yeah. So in the movie, if I recall, the movie starts off that they're continuing from the last post-credit scene, because in the first Venom, it's Eddie Brock. He walks into the cell. Woody Harrelson is there, who plays Cletus Cassidy. So Cletus is there with some. It looked like a weird wig, but he like says the famous line. He's like, "Oh, let there be carnage." Movie ends, right? And then everyone's like, "All right, next movie's gonna have carnage." Now we're back here. No, I remember how it actually opens. No, it starts off with like a Cletus and his girlfriend Shriek are at some what's it called? The ward or school for unwanted children. There's a full name there, but
One thing in the prison already, and then it showed them separating, and then it showed.
I could have swore it showed them separating first. Like it tried to give you a flashback. It's one of no, it does the flashback first, because then like Shriek does the whole thing where like you look at Private Mulligan's name, or Peter Mulligan. I don't know why I called him Private Peter Mulligan, and
Yeah.
like she does the scream thing, and then it
Yeah.
cuts to Eddie Brock in prison, and then just to I won't explain every detail, but pretty much it just catches us up on the whole symbiotic relationship thing that Eddie Brock is still struggling to live with Venom, to be with Venom, which to me feels like they regressed, does it not? Because in the whole first movie, that was like the big conflict, and then they just like decided to like kiss and make up, and then they stop Riot, and then they become good friends. Only for the beginning of this movie to be like, no, we're still having problems. Like, we
Well,
haven't hashed it out.
I think they addressed it where I think the suit was just hungry, and once he eat brains, and obviously Eddie Brock like, no, you're not gonna kill people. So I think he was just hangry.
Yeah, that's fair. To me, it's all right. It creates some nice banter, and the banter is really fun. I think Tom Hardy plays a really fun Eddie Brock. And if you don't know, he also voices Venom. So I think it's really fun. And I think I don't remember, but I think I heard that the way they do it is that he records his like lines in the morning for Venom, and they play it back to him later when he's like supposed to act it out. So it creates some really like interesting banter with himself, if that makes sense.
That's funny.
Which I think is really, really interesting. But yeah, so it's just like he's hangry, and he's like, to quote Venom himself, "We should be out there eating bad guys." But Brock is like, no, because then like bodies are disappearing and they're looking into us, and I get that. Then it does a lot of like jump cuts back and forth between like Eddie Brock and Cassidy until Venom like helps Brock, and he's like, idiot, here's where all the bodies are. Come on, man. And then like he figures them out, and then Cletus Cassidy, which is ironic because the whole point is that like, oh, I'm mysterious, but like maybe you'll find me out, Eddie. And then Eddie finds him out, and then he gets really upset at Eddie, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me unless there was something there I missed. I mean, you watched it just yesterday, so maybe I'm missing something there.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he interviewed him, and then Venom is the one that discovered, oh, here's the photo, here's the X's, and then they Googled it, and then they found. So I don't think he specifically told him, here are the bodies.
Yeah. No,
Venom remembered a drawing, and that's how he kind of
yeah.
cracked the case.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. But like, my point is that like, isn't Cletus like, maybe he was just taunting him, but like Cletus, and I just like misunderstood it. But Cletus was like, oh Eddie, you know, like you'll find me out. It'll be you, Eddie. Like, you know, you'll find like something like he's like teasing him about the whole thing, about finding it, and then Eddie finally finds it, and then suddenly Cletus is upset about it.
Yeah, he got mad.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird.
I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess they were just trying to show the whole like character of Cletus, where he's like deranged and like doesn't make sense. But I don't know. While we're on that, let me talk about Woody Harrelson. I think he's a great actor. I think he did great in Zombieland 1. He did good again in 2, but 2 was 2. I don't know what you thought of him as a Cletus Cassidy, though.
I thought he was fine. I thought the whole movie was fine. It was good. It wasn't great. It was good.
Yeah. So anyway, they move on. They discover the bodies. Eddie Brock becomes famous again. That was a struggle from the first movie, if I recall. So he's famous again. Everybody knows the name Eddie Brock. Him and Venom have more banter. I don't recall what exactly happens, but I know at some point. Oh right, his ex girlfriend or ex fiance or something like that. I forgot her name. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Anne, just got it. Anne calls him and she's like, I'm engaged. And Eddie is really upset to the point that like he tries running into cars, but Venom like pulls him out of the way. It's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah, that's where we see kind of the symbiote kind of taking over and helping him out. I remember him saying, he can heal broken wounds, but he can't heal the broken heart.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it was a nice touching scene, but like they kind of blew over it. Like after that, they just went back to more arguing, which
Yeah,
I get it, but like it felt kind of forced. Does that make sense? And it's
and
funny.
rushed.
Yeah, and it's funny because later in the movie, they do mention like that there was a character there that just like felt that they were in the way, and I was like, you could kind of say that about Anne too. But to get back on track, they have more banter. They get in a weird fist fight, although obviously Venom wins, but you know, Tom Hardy breaks Venom's teeth, Eddie Brock breaks Venom's teeth, and then Venom decides to separate himself. And I think I have to talk about this. Like he wrecks Brock's bike and all that, but like doesn't Venom accidentally go on a killing spree by like doing his what's the word? Not mating, where he takes over somebody else. God, I can't remember. Anyway, he goes into other people's body, takes them over, coexists with them is the verb I'm going to use. And like, doesn't he kill them? Doesn't he accidentally kill them doing that?
I don't think he killed them because I know they were passing out, but he was also at a rave, so you could assume maybe they were already they were taking drugs, maybe, or they were drunk. But I don't think he was sucking their life, was he?
Well, because you got to remember in the first movie, anybody that a symbiote like coexisted with but did not function with, like they would die. That was the whole plot of the first movie, was trying to find perfect hosts for these symbiotes. But everyone they tried, it would kill them. Heck, the homeless lady that like transfers it to Eddie Brock was like Eddie, who was like Eddie's like a weird homeless friend. She like ends up dying right after she transfers it over. So I'm pretty sure if they're keeping it with continuity, I'm sure they can also just say like, no, they passed out and like whatever. But like, if the whole continuity makes sense, Venom like killed like 4 people.
Yeah, now that you think, I completely forgot about that in the first movie, and I think you're right.
Yeah, so Venom killed like 4 people, but they don't like really talk about it, which is fine. I don't want them to get hung up in a movie about Venom about what happened to 4 people. But yeah, he just like goes around. He goes to the rave, which is a really funny scene. Like you could tell. I'm going to take this moment now, and I'll say it again later. But this movie was fun. You could tell they had fun making it. Like, was it great? No. Was it like a masterpiece? Was it everything like true to Venom? Not entirely, but it was a fun movie. If you like think about it separate from everything else, and you definitely have to think about it separate from everything else when we talk about that post credit scene. But it's a fun movie. It won't have much of an impact outside of itself, but it was a really fun movie. And to back that up, I think the rave scene was just really funny, where there's this giant symbiote man walking around and like really sharp teeth, and everyone's like, "Great costume!" And like he's doing the speech, and there's one guy like, "I love your costume." And he's like, "Thank you, one guy." I don't know, just something about that is just funny.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny scene with him with the glow sticks or whatever around him, and
Yeah,
yeah, that was a good time.
and just like I think the quote something like, "We should all exist on this one spinning rock," and he like goes into it. It's really funny, but yeah, it's just more of the same like back and forth banter. I know Eddie Brock is like seems happy because he like removed Venom from his life, and also he like took the chickens out of his home, and he's like living in a normal apartment almost. Which, by the way, in San Fran, an apartment like that wouldn't that run him a lot of money?
Dude, I thought the exact same thing. I thought that thing must be like 6, 7 grand.
Yeah, and he's like supposed to be a struggling reporter up until like he discovers Cletus. So like I don't know, money must have been coming in from somewhere before that. But anyway, I think it takes us back to I think I skipped a beat by accident because I remember uh Cletus invites Eddie to go to the prison. I'm kind of backtracking here, my bad. But Cletus invite Eddie to go to the prison to visit him because he's like, "Well, you're the one that put me on death row. Only right, like you see me through it or something like that." Um, and they go, and I remember Eddie is having some. Well, it's more Cletus having monologue, and Eddie's just there to listen. And they don't really explain how, but Cletus like knows about Eddie's background more than we, the audience, do. Where he's all like, your dad hated you, and your mom died giving birth to you, or something like that, to the point where like Venom tries to beat him up, and then like Cletus bites his hand conveniently.
So during this scene, I did go to the bathroom, so I don't know what's going on here.
Really, this is kind of like a big important scene. Um, yeah, and they have like a little tussle, and then like Cletus managed to bite Eddie's hand, and when he bites his hand, he and I think I can quote it correctly here. He's all like, "I've tasted blood before, Eddie, and that is not it." And like he says something like something wicked inside of you sleeps or rest or something like that. And he's like, Eddie Brock has a terrible secret, and Eddie Brock like makes himself unavailable really fast. He leaves, and then Cletus decides to like look at his hand, and there's like a drop of blood, and like it's sort of reacting, like it's doing like a little symbiote tentacle, and he like swallows it again, and that is more or less accurate to how I recall it happened in the original comic, where in the original comic, Eddie and Cletus were both in prison, and I remember Eddie just hated the fuck out of Cletus, and Venom comes to break Eddie out, but the way I'm glad I didn't do it like this. The way it worked in the comics was that Venom, when symbiotes are pregnant, they apparently don't know, like they're pregnant, I guess, or birthing, or whatever term you want to use. So when Venom like took Eddie out, he like accidentally left behind Carnage, like his child, and then Cletus, bonded with it. So I'm glad they just kind of went with the whole like, yeah, he's a really crazy serial killer who's like eating people, I guess. So yeah, he'd bite Eddie. Why not? Right?
Right.
So so they do that, and then there's a pretty epic prison scene. I like it for what it is, but it could have been more. Um, some people said if Let There Be Carnage was R rated, it probably could have been a way better movie. I agree. But yeah, they become Carnage. While they're like injecting them with whatever they inject death row inmates, Carnage reacts, and then he kills a bunch of people. He starts like a prison breakout, kills pretty much only exclusively guards, which is weird because doesn't isn't Carnage all about like killing whoever the fuck?
Yeah, and now that you mention it, we said about Woody Harrelson playing Carnage. If I remember Cletus, isn't he like just bananas, like
Yeah,
almost like a Joker?
yeah, he's like a really I don't want to say a really twisted Joker because Joker could be twisted, but like he's like a Joker without regard because even Joker has had his soft moments like from time to time, but Cletus is just supposed to be like he doesn't discriminate in terms of violence. He will attack anyone, and that's why like Carnage is supposed to match him almost quite perfectly. Where like they don't care who they're killing. They're killing.
Yeah,
So
and I wonder why it wasn't an R because I mean, look at Deadpool. That was a hard R, and that made a ton of money.
yeah, it did, and I I think I know why now. Um, I don't know. We will get to it when we get to it because I want to save the best for last. But just think about that post credit scene, and that might be why.
Yeah,
Um,
but even Venom 1 wasn't an R.
it wasn't, but like, let's think about. I will discuss it there. I'll just leave it at that. However, there was that one really weird scene where like Carnage stuck his tongue down some guard's throat for no
Ye
reason.
Yeah, the guard's like, "Hey, I have kids, I have kids." Like, "All right, well, then I'll just make out with you."
Yeah, I was like, what the like I think they did it just to try to be like, oh, it's Carnage. Like, he's done crazy shit. Like he's eating a baby. Probably more, but like we do, in the comics, I've seen him eat a baby. Um
Really?
yeah, he like there was just like I remember like Cletus was like holding it, he's like taunting about it. I don't remember he's taunting like Venom and maybe Spider-Man, I don't remember, or someone else. And he just eats the baby. I'm like, well, that was fucked up, but like, move on, right?
Yeah,
Uh
and I haven't read any Carnage comics. I do have the Back in Black, the Absolute Carnage here.
yeah.
I haven't read it yet, but I
Yeah.
haven't read too many
Yeah,
Carnage.
I don't remember what it was. I don't think it was like a Carnage specific. I think it was one of those like what are they called? Where like it's like Civil War comic lines or whatever, where like just a bunch of everyone is everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I guess the reason they did the makeout thing was like, oh, Carnage probably would eat your insides from your insides. Like he'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, but like you could have just I don't know. If it was rated R, they could have done a lot more. But yeah, he just like starts specifically only targeting guards. And I don't know. That's just weird. I mean, maybe there's some super Carnage expert that explains, well, like maybe Cletus felt, sorry for his fellow inmates in this comic or whatever, and that's fine. But like, I don't know. I just remember Carnage totally being non-discriminate about who he killed. He targeted anything and everyone. But anyway, he has the breakout scene. He kills the warden, and then he leaves, and he like goes on a bit of a killing spree, getting new clothes. I think it was just kind of. It shouldn't be funny. I don't think it was meant to be, but it was just funny when he drove up to that gas station, walked in on that one guy, and like he's like, "Hey, how can I help you?" And he just like steps up on the counter and like kicks him, and then just like starts just like beating his head in.
Yeah, he starts stomping him, and I'm thinking like, "Oh, that guy's dead."
Yeah, I'm like, he's not alive, but like the part that was funny, let me clarify, was like he just like walked up on the counter. I was like, yeah, I guess Cletus rolls like that. Like no discernation for anybody. But yeah, they break out Shriek. They break into Ravenscroft, which in the comics, Ravenscroft is like this facility for like all kinds of monsters. I'm they don't really they don't not say that in the movie, but like if it's anything like it should have been in the comics, like we should have seen like a couple like X-Men characters, not X-Men themselves, but like a bunch of Marvel characters, but we didn't. We just saw one guy scream.
You mean mutants?
Yeah, mutants. I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
Mutants. Well, I just chose not to say it because then Fox will sue me. No, that's not it. Yeah, but Ravenscroft breaks out Shriek. Carnage goes to kill more while they like make out or whatever, and then Shriek ends up screaming, and then Carnage is like, "Hey, don't do that again, or I'll kill you."
Yeah. 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 That was interesting.
Yeah. So there was that. Eddie Brock goes into more like looking into Cletus now that he knows he's escaped. Eddie Brock also is like kind of looking for Venom, and Venom is still out there. And then Venom goes to that one Chinese store. And by the way, can I again going back to this topic? If Mrs. Chang, who like runs the convenience store, uh, is able to what's the word partner,
Host?
yeah, host Venom and like seem to not die, why?
Maybe it's like Thor's hammer where you got to be worthy.
Yeah, just well, like yeah, in the comics, yeah, Venom does like he goes around, for lack of a better term. But I don't know, it was very funny that Mrs. Chang of all people could, and also Anne. So there's like at least three people. So like if Eddie Brock dies in the movies, like we got two others, we're covered
Hmm.
at least. Um,
Absolutely.
it won't be like one of those Captain America situations where like, oh, who wields the shield now? Like Steve didn't really have a true successor. There were like two people, but like none of them were really Captain America material into the show. Anyway, that's a whole different show. Um,
Not in the
but yeah,
comics. There's like a million Captain Americas. But
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say in the comics there are, and then like Steve Rogers comes out of retirement, and then like some other guy wields it, and then there's a agent USA agent or something like that. I forgot what his
U.S.
name.
agent. Yeah, he was a
Yeah,
Sarah from TV show.
yeah. So yeah, he was yeah. So, but in the show, I remember that was like a whole point where like I don't feel worthy, so I'm gonna give it to this museum, and then,
Oh
but
yeah,
in
yeah.
in Venom, I know he's like, first of all, Peter Parker. They like actually made a Deadpool comic where they went back and explained that Peter Parker was not the first Venom ever bonded with.
Really? What,
That
what was it?
it was Deadpool, but
Huh.
Deadpool actually drove him out, and I forgot what the explanation was. Because like what I like to do before Marvel movies is like look up origins or refresh myself on origins by watching like a quick video that somebody has.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, let's catch back up on Venom and Carnage. And it might have been part of the 2018 run or somewhere before, but it was a more recent where they went back and explained like, actually, he tried to host with Deadpool first, but Deadpool actually forced Venom out because he was afraid. Deadpool was afraid that his own insanity would be too much for Venom, which
Wow.
Venom may have dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
So
It's funny because so in the comic books Wolverine, I'm going to side story here, but you know how Wolverine died, old man Logan, where Wolverine he died. So in the comic book, I started reading She-Hulk because there's a new She-Hulk TV show coming out.
yeah, which I'm excited for, but go on.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be great. But in the comic I'm reading, it was a bunch of She-Hulk comics, and then in one of the back issues, like the story was over, and this was the back issue, and it was Deadpool, and he was so sad that Wolverine's dead, so he went out and he's wearing a Wolverine costume, and he has like fake claws. I think he stabbed his hand with knives, so it looks like he has claws. And he goes to beat up She-Hulk, and She-Hulk's like, "What are you doing?" He's all like, "I'm bringing back Wolverine. We need him." He's all like, and when Wolverine came out, he beat up the Hulk, and like, "Yeah, I'm She-Hulk." And then with Deadpool, like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna fight him. He'll kick my ass. Are you kidding me?" And then she got so pissed, she beat the shit out of him. But Deadpool was fantastic.
I love Deadpool. I hope when there is a Deadpool 3 that we'll say again that has to be for later. But yeah, so Venom first tried with Wade Wilson. Wade Wilson forced him out, and then he went to Peter Parker, and then Eddie Brock, and then I think some other people he might have with Mulligan one time.
Well,
to get
didn't he also go with what's his name, Flash Thompson, to become Anti-Venom?
Yeah, I forgot about that. He goes with Flash Thompson and he becomes Agent Venom, but then
Yes.
Eddie Brock tries to fight him back for it, and then he douses himself in anti-venom, which is like a fluid that you like put on when you don't want a symbiote to take over your body. But then it causes a weird reaction where it turns Agent Venom into anti-venom, and then
Yes.
that's how they explain that because they didn't want to just like, oh no more Agent Venom because a lot of people liked them. But yeah, I forgot about that 100%. And then where was I in the movie? What was the last thing I talked about movie wise? I already forgot.
Hold on, no, let me think. You talked about he beat Mrs. Chen and Amy, his
Yeah,
wife, were able to have
yeah.
this. And
But Amy will do.
yeah,
So then we see female Venom again, which I'm just gonna say the internet's a crazy place, and I'm sure there's a lot of that somewhere out there. But yeah, she finds Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock becomes Venom again. Dan's there because there just has to be a reason for Dan to be here in this.
let
And
me
then,
just say, I completely forgot Dan was a character.
yeah, see, isn't that like the only reason I remember is because towards the end of the movie, they literally explicitly say, Dan didn't need to be there. In fact, it felt like he was in the way. I'm like, the movie's self-aware. They know.
Yep. Yeah.
So I guess keep him on for the gag, but like he really does not need to be there. Uh, but yeah, so they set up this church scene, this big fight. Cletus, Shriek, and Carnage are like, "Oh, we're gonna have a red wedding. Everybody bring your special guest." So they kidnap the detective. Somehow, how did they even kidnap him? I forgot how they like managed to knock him out and take him.
They do things. It's a buddy comedy. I forget.
Yeah, so okay, so they get him. Getting Anne isn't that hard. Shriek shows up and like knocks her out, and then like she doesn't like knock out Dan, which is interesting, or like even kill him because clearly her and Cassidy are like way above murder. They don't care that they're killing people, but
Right.
just for again the sake of convenience, Dan is kept alive. I guess just so Dan can call Eddie. So they call Eddie. They show up at the wedding. They're about to get wed. Cletus like father, he like interrupts father, and the guy is like, well, actually, in the usual ceremony, and then like because I guess he forgot he was talking to like a deranged serial killer that should be famous. Because I remember though they tried to make a big point that like, oh, everyone's so interested about Cletus Cassidy because people love serial killers, and it's true. People love serial killers. Did you hear about the Zodiac killer? Like what they just found out? It was trending on Twitter earlier.
I just read something that he was caught.
Yeah, no, they said that in a cold detective case or something like that, they may have discovered that the Zodiac killer was a man who passed away in 2018.
Wow.
So like, it's interesting. Like I won't lie, it's very interesting to know about serial killers. Even like, not to derail, but like even, and this is a very tragic thing, but like, men like Hitler and Stalin are interesting just because like they were able to get away with so much, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I've seen a couple of documentaries on Hitler. It's bananas.
Yeah, so it's true. Cletus Cassidy should be very well known, I guess, in the San Fran area. But like the fact that this like holy clergyman has the balls to be like, well, in a normal ceremony, like if I was in a room with Cletus, whatever he fucking says goes to me.
Yeah.
Like you know what? Yeah, maybe the Earth is flat. You're right. But yeah, so they have Eddie shows up, and then like he suits up, and then Cleo's like, ah, perfect, and then he puts on his red Carnage, and this is where we were talking about it earlier. They make Venom goes like, oh shit, and he unmasks or unsuits or whatever, and Eddie's like, what the hell, and he's like, that's a red one, like he'll kill us, and I'm like, have they? I'm trying to remember in the comics if color was ever important, like other than distinguishing them. Right. So colors, they just like I don't think they've ever been important like at all. And there just has been no important other than just like a gag of some sort for Venom, just like, oh, that's a red one, he'll kill us. Like I think it would have made more sense if Venom knew where like Carnage came from, aka his son, in the way that works, where he was just like, oh, that is the next in line. Like he'll fuck us up because we're the last generation, we're weak or something like that. So yeah, that's just that's what happens. And then there's a funny gag about Carnage who's like, "I'm here to kill you, father." And then the clergyman, the priest or whatever, he's like, "No," and he's like, "No, not you, father. You, father." And it's like, haha, I get it, funny. And then they have
Yeah.
like, I'll be honest, this fight amazed me. Like I thought it was gonna be kind of lame and like just generic looking, but like it was a pretty well choreographed fight. Even with all the what some critiques have called tentacle porn, in air quotations, because people see like long tendrils and they immediately, I don't know, man. This world has an skewed vision of things in terms of that, but yeah, they are like, I was like, I don't know, I think the like the tendrils and the spikes and like the one tendril becomes an axe kind of thing is really cool, and I thought they had a really cool fight within themselves.
Yes, it definitely visually it was really good. It was stunning.
Yeah, so I thought that was great. Shriek, Private or no, what do I keep calling him? Peter Mulligan manages to run away, and Shriek chases him. And then they have a rooftop scene that like you don't really care about, but like it looks like she kills him because I guess that she might have actually just killed him. I'm sure we'll get a better explanation later.
Yeah, that was weird because she put the rope around him and then she kicked him off the ledge, but he fell on the beam and he never hung.
Yeah, and it looked like he got impaled too. Like I think that was the point. Like he got impaled through the spine or something, like off of a
So
little.
that I did not see.
Yeah, I could have swore there was like a little piece of wood or something sticking out.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, so like she leaves him for presumably dead. Um, and then they hit a church bell because whenever there's a symbiote fight, sound is always involved just so like to save money. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, that's the reason why they do it, so the actors can come out. And then like the actors come out, Cletus and Eddie fight, and it's very clear that Cletus is a way stronger man from the get go. But then they resuit back up, uh, have more of a pretty awesome symbiote fight, and then I don't remember what happened. Venom, I guess, just gets his shit rocked in a little too hard, and then like it was kind of a brutal scene. Again, kind of wish it was rated R, but like Eddie's laying on the floor and Cletus walks up and he grabs like a mallet and like busts his kneecaps. I was like, oh, that's pretty brutal. Like we're not seeing it happen, but like that's pretty damn brutal. Like I think that's where Cletus was most Cletus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that just right before that, I think he grabbed the priest and he ate his head. He ate the brain. He's all time to
Yeah,
level up.
yeah. He said that like time to level up, and like Venom was like no, and like that's first of all that was the first I ever seen Venom felt bad for a human. I'm pretty sure it was the Eddie inside of him, but like typically in most scenarios, Venom doesn't ultimately care what happens to random humans.
Well, maybe he was jealous. He wanted to eat him.
Well, yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but in this point in the story, Venom's the hero of our story. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so he busts his kneecap, and then he gets like buried under rubble, and then like Dan comes over and gives a pep talk. Of all characters, by the way, Dan comes over, and he's like, and at this point, you got to remember that Carnage is like starting to grow past, like really large and like uncaring of Cletus's thoughts to the point like he starts like suffocating Shriek. And Cleo's like, "You're hurting her," and like Carnage's like, "Shut up," like whatever, right? Um, so yeah, they make it that Dan comes over and he like gives a pep talk to them. He's like, "Look at them, they're not symbiotic, but you two are." And Venom's like, "Damn, Dan, you right?" So he like jumps up. He like he's staring Carnage in the eye while getting impaled like 50 times. And then Venom's all like, or Eddie's like, "We need some fire," and Venom's like, "Or sound," and like I don't. I feel like they did this just to get rid of a character to just like tie up a loose end. But like Venom like kicks Shriek off the bell, which makes her to drop and scream, and then the bell drops on top of her, and it creates a bunch of sound, and then like it pretty much knocks out Carnage, right?
Yeah, and that's funny too because I thought he was gonna grab something and hit the bell. He just straight up
Yeah,
threw
he
her
just
into
threw
the
her.
bell. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
"Well,
was
I
like,
did not see that coming."
neither did I. I was like, I didn't think she'd like die here. But let me backtrack a little bit. What's really, really weird is that like Shriek suddenly becomes a human, I guess, because then she like looks up at Carnage, Cletus, and she goes like, "It's too much, Cletus. You have to control him." I'm like, where does that come from? There was nothing. All the murders they took apart in, she was like laughing, giggling like a little schoolgirl. She was loving the crazy that was happening, even though it like became really big. Like they had the big web thing come out when they were escaping Ravenscroft, and Carnage was bringing carnage. He was mass destruction and all that. But suddenly Carnage like got a little too big, and she's concerned out of nowhere.
Wasn't that right after he tried to choke her?
No, that was right before, and then Carnage started choking her.
Hmm.
She was
Oh
like,
no, so that's what I thought when Venom was like, "We need a little sound." I thought it was gonna be like the twist. The character Shriek was gonna become human and help destroy the symbiote, and Venom should have smacked her into the bell. That's why I laughed. Yeah, yeah.
well, that would have been made more sense, but like from a like story point perspective, it like where did she grow a heart? It just happened. She just like suddenly was like, wait, hold on, like maybe we should calm it down a little.
Yeah, she just had a change of heart.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just to me, it's not. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it, but it's just so sudden, and then that just I guess pisses Carnage off, and Cletus is indifferent. I guess the way they played Cletus in this movie was that ultimately he did everything for the sake of his girlfriend,
Hmm.
um, which I don't think in the comics they ever had a relationship. But I mean, use your characters where you can, right? Um,
Love, man.
yeah. Which, by the way, they totally avoided Shriek's other power. She had like the power to control emotions or feelings or something like that. But they just gave her the scream. And again, she was just a plot point, just for the sake of symbiotes to become weak for half a second.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this character for so I for some reason I thought in the trailer I thought she would scream the orange symbiote, but that's not her.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. But oh, I also got to throw in that like it was interesting that they used the word mutation, and I think they're more lenient. Like they can use that word now, but like remember one time when like Fox tried to sue I think Marvel because they like used the word mutant in like a trailer or something.
No, but I believe it.
Yeah, that happened like one time where yeah, no, that's pretty much that's exactly what happened. Was that they used the word mutant or mutation or something like that, and Fox was like, "Nope, you can't have it." But in this movie, they used it, and I was like, like,
Well, it's all one umbrella now, right?
yeah, well, yes, I think so, but Fox is still a company, so I'm sure it's just because it's under one umbrella. You're right, but like, is it not still a little funky in certain areas for that? Like, is it?
No, I think it's one parent company, one hand feeds the other. When Fox makes money, Disney makes money. So I don't think they care anymore.
Yeah, well, I guess that's fair. But yeah, so they, so it's kind of nice to let them use that word now. I looked it up real fast, and yeah, no, it didn't look like Shriek and Carnage like ever dated. They just like
Wait, yeah, no,
knew.
wait. This is Sony. This isn't Fox. This isn't Disney. This is Sony. My bad.
You say exactly. So that's why.
Well, no, I think Fox and Disney they own the word mutant. They don't own the word mutation.
Yeah, but they like still try to fight for it when it's used in a Marvel movie, or I feel like they would.
Yeah, I don't
Because
know.
that's how they explain mutants in Fox movies. They're like, oh, mutations, but the end credit scene kind of brings it all together. Um, so yeah, Shriek, she dies, I guess. She's a character that they probably won't use again, Marvel. So I guess nobody cares. Uh, that's fine. Although at some point, she she's not always evil, if I recall, but I think she is like 95% of the time. So it's whatever.
It's
Um,
chaotic, neutral.
yeah. But yeah, she grows a heart. She dies. So much for caring, I guess. Then Carnage and Venom retract, and then I think Carnage somehow escapes Cletus. I don't remember how, but like Carnage is trying to crawl back, and then Venom like walks over and like steps on him and eats Carnage. Which I don't. Do symbiotes eat each other?
Well,
I
remember when Venom threw Shriek into the bell made the noise that made them both fall out, and they
yeah.
both fell. Carnage and Venom, and then Venom jumped. Well, they would have jumped out of Eddie Brock into I
Oh
forget who,
yeah, he
and
did. He did like that weird, like that
yeah,
trickle rain effect thing.
yeah, and then Cletus didn't. He just fell and ate it.
Yeah. Which again, I have to ask: does do symbiotes eat each other? Like I didn't know they were cannibals.
Didn't they? Didn't they eat each other in one?
No, right? Just fucking explodes with the ship, and the other two symbiotes like die out because they couldn't find a host or something like that.
I don't remember. I
I
guess.
swore it was something like that, where like there's four that arrive on Earth, but Venom is God knows where. Riot infects a million people just to get to Drake something. I forgot his name, and the other two symbiotes just like die out. They just die out because they can't find a proper host, and then the fight with Venom and Riot happens, and it looks like Riot wins by getting on the ship to go get more symbiote or whatever. I forget what it is, and then Venom blows up the ship and fire kills symbiotes, but he doesn't eat Riot.
I guess they
Yeah,
new lore.
yeah. I don't like. I'm trying to think of a comic, unless the 2018 run talked about it, but I wouldn't think so.
Nah, nothing in the no. Maybe in the Absolute Carnage, it'll show something. But either way, I really hate when they take a big character like Carnage and then they do a little movie and they kill him off.
Yeah, and they've done it a lot. Ultron was a really big character. Kill him off. Um,
Yep.
that being said, Ultron is a lot easier to bring back in terms of a character than a lot of others, but like, you know, um, Thanos was the only one who I think got it right ultimately, because there were a bunch of other villains who were just like, here they are, they're gone.
Yep.
Red Skull becomes a pretty big villain, especially in a bunch of different storylines. There's a storyline of Avengers where the Red Skull turns out to be Captain America's son.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure I still have those comics, but like they have a fight in a helicopter, and then like Red Skull gains the upper hand, and like he whispers into his ear, he's like, "I'm your son, Steve Rogers," and because in that storyline, Steve Rogers had a son, but they thought he died in like training camp or whatever, but it was really Red Skull who like uh, made the ship blow up and killed everyone else to like look like an accident just to escape. Yeah. So anyway, going back, Red Skull, he died ish. I mean, like, yeah, he's in spoilers again, but this is a whole spoiler cast. He's in Infinity War and Endgame. Um, but yeah, they just have a lot of characters. So I wasn't too surprised when Carnage died because I mean, what were they gonna do? Put him back in prison?
Yeah. Did he wait? He ate Cletus, right?
Yeah, he eats Cletus too because remember they have a thing and Cletus like tries to be human again suddenly where he's all like, Eddie, all I wanted was a friend. I was like, where did any of this come from?
Oh yeah. And then he said, you didn't tell the story where the mother and the grandma were beating me or something like that."
And I'm like, yeah, that's true. There is a line to that, but like all things considered, I don't think that would change the public's opinion about what he did.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I know Cletus is messed up. Like he tortured his stepmom's dog. I think the dog is named Tiff. Don't ask me why I know that. Um, he kills his grandmother. He kills his stepmom, who were abusive. His father was abusive. Um, Cletus had a shitty life. If anything, they got that origin story right. The one thing they changed was that like Shriek was there, but that's not how that happens. It actually that he gains a best friend at the school, and like him and his friend are bros, and I think his friend dies or something. I don't remember. But they wanted to make it a love story because if it isn't a love story, how could he perfectly mirror Eddie Brock, which is as you couldn't tell throughout the whole movie, the point in a way.
Yeah.
Like the whole point is that he was supposed to be a mirror to Eddie, but like I don't know. They kind of just took Cletus and like made him whatever he needed to be, just more crazy.
Not crazy enough, if you ask me.
No, he should have been killing a lot more. I mean, and there's a chance he could have been. They just didn't want to show it all the time. But my point here is that I thought it was kind of funny. It was like predictable but funny. Where like after he gives that monologue, Venom like takes back and he's like "fuck this guy" and he just like eats his head. So
Yeah.
hey, at least they killed him off a little bit. They didn't like try to do the traditional villain death, if that makes sense.
Yeah, more comedical.
Yeah. So he dies. Eddie escapes, and this is and if you know, and they show like Mulligan up there, and he has like the symbiote eyes, and that's to hint toxin. That toxin will be coming next. And
Toxin, you say? Oh, there he is. I just googled him.
yeah, toxin. And the interesting part about toxin is that he's the thousandth in his line, and that immediately, and I think in a lot of comics, he's like already by default the strongest symbiote that isn't null.
Well, Noel's
Yes.
a goddamn god, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a god. He's like a god of the darkness or whatever, something like that,
Yeah.
and progenitor of the symbiotes. Although it's funny that like the thing he created or is the thing that imprisoned him for so long, if I recall, right?
I read this like 3 years ago, but he was a god before time, and then um, I forget what happened. Something about the darkness, and then light started happening, and he wanted more darkness. So he just started going around killing people. I forget.
Yeah. So they kill him. They kill off Cletus. Toxin is teased because he's the one that is host or his host is Peter Mulligan. Um, that's gonna be cool. They also go over the line where like Dan seemed like a nice guy, but it seemed like he was in the way, which is really funny.
Yeah.
And then Eddie and Venom take a long needed vacation, and the movie ends. Except this is Marvel, and there's always an end credit scene. And this is the part I wanted to talk about. This is why I wanted so badly to talk about this. I like how they try to cover it up with the whole like we symbiotes have million years of knowledge of the universe, right? And they're like, let me show you, and then shit starts happening to kind of mask the fact that like Doctor Strange is accidentally fucking up the timeline.
Yes.
And by the way, that's kind of already the big spoiler. And then it shows J. Jonah Jameson giving his report from the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. And it shows a picture of Tom Holland, which, by the way, that's a weird shot to have of Tom Holland in New York when that's not how he gets revealed. But, they just save time and money, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then, like, Venom comes out and he looks at Peter and he goes, like, he looks like a snack. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, fucking, how, like, I'm trying to like display the same type of hype, but I am hype. Like, how that like got me that like because I love Venom, and I just like already accepted the fact that like Venom won't be in the MCU because like Sony, right? Which
Mhm.
is why if you piece all of this together, this is why I go like maybe Venom was also PG-13 because this was a plan, was it not? Like I remember hearing a rumor way back when that they wanted to have Tom Holland be in the first movie or some way like have that Spider-Man be around, but they couldn't. Because remember, that's when Sony and Disney almost fell through around that time.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me backtrack for a second. I love Venom. I love Carnage, but without Spider-Man, I don't know if they're just not. Something's missing. It's Spider-Man. Because they're supposed to be the big bad, and Spider-Man's supposed to be the big hero who's supposed to overcome these big bad boys. And with Spider-Man missing, it just feels like I don't know. It just not lackluster, but I don't know what the word I'm looking for here.
Well,
It's just
yeah, you're missing an important piece of the puzzle, and like
yes,
while the rest of the puzzle looks pretty, like you can still notice the one piece.
yeah. Like the reason why Venom is so cool is because he's so bad compared to Peter Parker. The reason Carnage is such a maniac is again compared to Peter Parker. Peter Parker has to stop him, and now that they're adding him and they're bringing him in, like I don't know if it's a little too late.
I feel like it's the other way around. They're finally bringing Venom into the MCU. I don't feel it's all that they're bringing Spider-Man into Venom.
Well, we could see Venom in Homecoming or No Way Home.
No Way Home. I remember one of my friends once accidentally called it like, what's the name of that movie coming out? Spider-Man Go Home. I'm like, yep, that's it.
I'm out.
Yeah, just leave Spider-Man. We'll handle this.
Yeah, well, we don't know if he's coming to the MCU. Spider-Man's coming over. Most likely, he's coming into the MCU.
I was gonna say he's MCU just canon almost by that, just by showing Tom Holland, because unless like Disney didn't know about it and Disney all of a sudden was like, hey, what the fuck, Sony? But I think
no way.
Yeah, I think we're past that point at this hour.
You know what's funny too? While you were talking, I just Googled Venom 2, and it gives you the cast of characters, and it shows J. Jonah Jameson, and it shows Spider-Man in there. It shows the characters. Like that's weird that they would just have him there.
I saw that too. I was like, I don't want to say anything, but yeah, it's weird that they're like casted. They're not in the credits if I recall, but it's funny that there is casted. Also, what's funny is that Dan's actor is Tom Hollander.
Is it?
Yeah, Tom Hollander.
That's funny. Yeah, so the end cutscene, it's great. It was fantastic, but I knew something was coming because I saw like a tweet about it like on Wednesday when a midnight release. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something big and it was being overhyped. So I'm like, I wasn't. Obviously, they're bringing him into the MCU.
I thought it was big too. I saw like a kind of Facebook, like someone on Facebook said like the end credit scene got leaked. And I was like, okay, so like figured something, but like it was still like a nice level of hype. I feel like kind of bad for you about that because like it was a pretty good level of hype, even with me having like a kind of pre-fest knowledge. Because like my friends that I went with, they were like, what? Like it was so like a fucking what kind of fun like type of moment. Makes me wish that I actually went to the midnight reveal. But again, I was already kind of like, oh, Venom's going to be excluded because like Sony wants to keep him. That's not the case anymore. But so yeah, I'm excited for it. I don't think he'll be a main villain. Even if they say the Sinister Six is kind of the big plot of what was it? We just called it No Way Home.
I don't think Venom is a S6, is he?
He's not. But like to be fair, some of the six. I think Vulture's a 6, and he's in prison right now.
Yeah, no, he's a 6. He's definitely a 6. Him, Rhino, Scorpion, Doc Ock, Electro, and
like Lion Tamer or something like that. Like Beast. He's just a dude who's like a Beast Tamer. I forgot what his name is. He's one of the original though. I'm sure we could just look it up super fast. But yeah, so apparently his Sinister Six. Mysterio's also part of it. You got to remember that too.
Mysterio, yeah.
Kraven the Hunter. He's like one of the original, but he's like the lamest of them all.
He has a cool flat top. What are you talking about?
Sure, you know what? That's fine. But like, Electro seems to be coming back, so I don't think Venom will be part of Sinister Six. Venom's already, unless they just revert it again. I mean, here's how I see it: Venom and Peter and Spider-Man will have one struggle. Venom will bond with him. Venom will be like, "No, I'm out. Go back to Eddie." Then Venom will have that like logo he always does that he's like known synonymously for, and organic web shooters, which is what happens with Venom when he bonds with Peter Parker, is that he picks up those powers.
You know what else he picked up? The reason why he is such a big Spider-Man villain is because when Venom bonded with Peter Parker, his spider sense doesn't work on Venom. He can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought it doesn't work on any symbiotes at this point too. Because like I remember that's a big reason why he can't fight Carnage, because like he can't pick up Carnage.
Yeah, interesting. I read it was only Venom, but I don't know. It might. Well, if Carnage came from Venom.
Yeah, and that's why he can't pick up Toxin either. Is the same reason, and that's why I forget her name. Techno or Electro or no, not Electro. Techno or Whip or one of the ones that also came from Carnage. But she was like more machine based. Spider-Man couldn't pick him up. I think at this point, Spider-Man can't pick up any of the symbiotes because of some weird reason at this point.
What a lame-o.
Yeah, but I think it'll just be that, because if you go back and watch the No Way Home trailer, and I did mention this way back when, too bad there's no like recording of me, but you'll just have to take my word, where there's a scene in the trailer for like 2 seconds after like the multiverse breaks, where Spider-Man is in a lunchroom and he's wearing all black. Like he like has his mask off, but he's wearing all black. And I was like, wait, does that mean like a symbiote like Venom bonded with him at that moment? Like what's happening? But then like I was like, all right, you know what? You know what, we just gotta wait for a movie. Um anyway, Venom, right? And then like the movie comes out and then they show Peter Parker. I'm like, oh, you know what? Makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. He wore all black when he was a night monkey.
That's
So
true,
I don't
that was
know.
a very knitted black. Like go back and look at the trailer. It looks very akin to when I'm sure there's a name for a costume as there is, but like when Venom bonds with him. Like it doesn't look like they added goggles and he like looks like semi goofy. Like go back and watch the trailer and then like it makes more sense if you like pause
I'm
it.
gonna pause it. Let's go look at it right now. Go
All right.
look.
All right.
Okay, and we're back from watching the video, and Marty was way wrong.
No. If you watch it, you see he's like wearing like a very similar suit to when he like gets bonded and like
Yes, it looks like he's wearing a Spider-Man suit, but all black with silver detailing, highlights or whatever.
and it's very similar to like what Spider-Man has when he's bonded and like yeah, you could make the argument that like he takes off his mask like yeah, but like he's done that a couple other times and again at this point Venom isn't so much a bad guy. He's just a living being with a decent set of morals and like kind of just wants to go crazy a little bit, but you know, I wouldn't put it past him if like if Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock, Venom, whatever you want to call him, shows up, does a cameo. He's all like, "Hey, you know, hey kid, I saw you on the news. Where are we?" And he's like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And then like they slowly piece together like, "Oh, different timelines." Anyway, I'm Peter Parker, and like Venom's like, "Oh, he looks like fun," and then bonds with him for like 1 5 minute scene where he goes crazy, and that's why Spider-Man's like running through halls for no reason.
Two things. One, why do you make him sound like a creep? Why do you make Venom sound like he has a van with no windows?
Because he is kind of creepy. I played a Spider-Man video game where like Venom's just lurking in the bush. This is literally a video game. I think it was like Spider-Man 3, the movie, the game or whatever. Or some other Spider-Man video game where like Venom is just creepily lurking in the bushes and some lady's like running by and like she happened to hear something and she like takes off her earphones and then these tendrils come out, grab her, pull her in, and like the only thing left behind her shoes, it's to implicate that he ate her. But like Venom's creepy.
Yeah, one, he's a stalker, not a creepy uncle. So he does that to eat. And two, no way. People would be absolutely. Venom is such an important story. You can't just have him. Oh, just real quick. We'll just have him pop in. He'll take the suit, and then he'll go crazy, and then we'll move on.
Well,
No.
then maybe in the movie he'll be around way longer, but they want to like hide that secret. They're very these Marvel trailers are very well known for being like highly edited to like hide a lot of things and end up being different from the final product. I want to remind you that the Infinity War trailer, for some reason, has like Hulk and Captain America like when they're in Wakanda, but running through a jungle towards the bad guys. If you watch Infinity War, they're not fighting in a jungle; they're fighting out in like some savannas, and Hulk is nowhere to be present.
Yeah, Hulk's in the Hulkbuster suit.
Yeah, but they're very well known for doing this type of thing.
Yeah, but I still don't think they would just let Venom in just to pop his head in. Venom has to be his own. He's too big. He has to be his own proper.
He's too big in the comics. In the movies, no one really batted an eye up until a week ago.
Yeah, because he was an MCU. Now he's MCU. Now he's big boy. Now give him the love he deserves.
Well, I like then fine. He'll be more than a cameo, but I feel like in some way he's going to show up in this movie. Like
I say it'd be 50-50. I don't know if he is. But with the whole timeline and metaverse, who knows? Do you know what comic book this is based on? Story?
The Venom Let There Be Carnage?
No, the Spider-Man movie, the next one.
Spider-Verse something. I don't know what exact one, but
no, I think it's called Another Day or something like that. Anyways, it takes place after Civil War. Remember in Civil War, Spider-Man took his mask off. I'm Peter Parker. Hey.
You mean no, that's what happened in the comic. Never mind.
Yeah. In the comic book, Civil War. Yeah, we're going back to comics. Yes,
because it's the whole point of like in order for the people to trust you, the people need to know and all this.
Right. Well, in this comic thread, I haven't read it, but I've seen a couple of videos, and Now I'm gonna read it, but
pretty good.
he goes to Doctor Strange, and that's how he reverses. That's how people forget he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, but clearly they're gonna fuck it up. I know Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire have been vehement about saying they're not gonna come back. I think they will, but to get back on track, I think Venom will be in this movie. I'm almost certain. This is gonna be a big one. Reserve your tickets now if you can. Like I'm gonna go to a midnight premiere. That's a promise to everyone listening right now.
Yeah, I can. It's too crowded here. I'll definitely go during the week or something. I'll figure something out.
I guess that's fair for you over there. No, I'm gonna go for sure. But yeah, I mean, just it's fun. To kind of give a final review, wrap up on this movie. It's a fun movie. I know you just listened to a spoilers cast, but if you haven't watched it somehow, go watch it. It's fun. Some of the banter is great. The dialogues. I think Tom Hardy does a really good of his own version of Eddie Brock. It's not 100% true, but like it feels like it's its own. It's fun. Like that's all I can really say. It's fun. There's some plot holes, some continuity, kind of weird, not errors, but just givens. And that whole end credit scene almost makes the whole movie worth it because you kind of have to watch these. These are canon. If you're a big MCU fan, let's pretend you just like hate comic books, but you love the movies and all that. 1 and 2 are now Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage are canon. You're welcome. I didn't give that power to them, but they are now canon. You kind of almost have to watch them. The first one sucks though, so like if you skip it, I don't blame you. But it's a fun movie.
You're talking in old time Marty. Remember, Doctor Strange is gonna fuck the timeline up. They could be canon, they could be erased. We don't know. So
well, we saw that they weren't erased. They clearly were somewhere not where they just were, and they were like alive.
Yeah, they jumped somewhere. They're somewhere else. So it could be a whole new canon. It could be either way. Based on my review, it is a dumb, fun summer movie, blockbuster popcorn movie. I felt like everything was rushed. Maybe I'm spoiled because all the Marvel movies have been good to great or fantastic, but they don't feel rushed. And this feels rushed. It was an hour and like 37 minutes. I wish Carnage is so big. I wish he was more detailed, more a bigger part of the movie. He gets killed. It was fine.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I feel like this is more enjoyable if you're not a comic book fan because we've given our gripes, but we know better. To them, Carnage is just a red Venom.
Yeah.
But I will end with this, and according to Deadline from 5 hours ago, Venom Let There Be Carnage crossed 100 million at box office in 5 days, tying Shang-Chi for fastest during pandemic.
Did you watch Shang-Chi?
I did, and I thought it was great, and I feel like that's just going to open up a whole nother can of worms. But I'll just say this one thing. Shang-Chi was really fun considering I know nothing about him, and it felt like a fresh new beginning for Marvel.
Same.
But it was fun to watch something about a character I know nothing of. And now I understand why like some people openly accept these movies and like give it no critique. I get it now.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun movie. What's funny is they're not going to show it in China, or they're still debating if they're going to show it in China, I think.
Is it because of all like the symbolism or
No, because the main actor, I forgot his name, he's Canadian. And
really?
and well, I mean, his parents were from China somewhere. I don't know where exactly, but I think it's mainland China. And they flew to Canada, and he was born, I believe, in Canada, or he was very young when he moved to Canada. He's a Canadian citizen, and he tweeted years ago how his parents left communist China for a better life, and China was like, "Well, we can't have that. You left. You just brr, brr, brr."
It's whatever. I'm sure. First of all, with all the movies that have already been, many people have said so much that like, what's another one to China?
Yeah, but this is like such a love letter to China. It's crazy.
That's fair. Well, in any case, this has been Marty. Go watch Venom. It's a great movie. And Ernie, if you would sign us off here.
Yeah, this is Ernie. Thank you for listening. I'm excited for the potential of Venom, but we'll see what happens.